Something felt different today, and I don't want to overstate it because nothing massive has happened. I didn't suddenly go viral. I didn't suddenly fix my entire life. I didn't make a truck ton of cash. But there were a few small signs that made me think, maybe things are starting to shift. And by the end of this video, I want to talk about why those small signs matter. Because sometimes your life starts changing before the results are obvious. Often I would say, change doesn't arrive as some big dramatic event, some big dramatic breakthrough. Sometimes it just starts quietly. Your space looks a little bit better, your house is a little more organized, conversations feel a bit calmer. Your work starts to get seen by more people, even if it's just a few more people. You keep promises to yourself. You handle something better than you would have handled it months ago. And these moments in life are certainly worth noticing. When you're trying to rebuild your life, it's easy to ignore the small evidence. You look at the big things and think, it's not where I want to be financially. I'm not where I want to be with work. I'm not where I want to be with my body. I'm not where I want to be with my channel. I'm not where I want to be with my art, and so on. And because the big results haven't arrived, you can convince yourself that nothing is actually moving or changing. But that isn't true. It's certainly not always true. Sometimes the change shows up in how you move, how you carry yourself, how you respond, how you organize your environment, how your new routine looks, how you show up when nobody is really watching yet. Do you keep promises to yourself? Today, for example, I finished painting these wardrobes in my room, a clean, clinical matte black finish, and it looks a hell of a lot more uniform, a lot better. And that sounds like a small thing, and it is a small thing, but this space is where I train, where I paint, film, think, make these videos, and where I'm trying to essentially build and rebuild a better life from. So this space becomes, as the space becomes more intentional, I feel more intentional. And this applies to everybody, Your environment matters. I would say if your space is chaotic, your mind will often feel chaotic. If your tools are buried, you're less likely to use them. If your room is set up for the old version of you, it's more likely the old version of you is going to come out to play, If your room is set up for the new version of you, it's harder for the old version of you to exist. So sometimes rebuilding your life starts with something simple. Clean one corner, clean one room, clean your entire house if you can. Set up your desk, keep it clean, make your gym clothes visible. Put the canvas out where you can actually see it. Make the next good decision easier. You don't need a perfect life to start changing, you need a slightly better environment. A slightly better environment that your future self can operate well within. Another thing I noticed recently is that some of my art posts are starting to get seen a bit more. Not massive numbers, not life-changing numbers, not life-changing views, but enough to make me think, there might be something there. And the small signs definitely matter. A post getting a little bit more reach, a video getting a few more comments, someone mentioning your work, conversation feeling calmer than it used to, someone responding differently to your energy. All these things are feedback. It's not the finish line, it's just feedback. Signs that things might actually be moving. And I would say if you ignore the small signs, because it's not some big, huge, dramatic, life-changing event yet, then you can end up quitting before the momentum has time to build up. And this is where I would say a lot of people go wrong. They expect change to feel obvious right away. They expect to go to the gym and the body to be transformed within a few weeks. They expect the business to start making money from day one. They expect the channel to grow after a few uploads. They expect people to notice the first time that they improve. And this may be the case for some scenarios, some people, but often is the case that none of those things are true to reality. Things generally take time, and most change doesn't work in dramatic, life-changing events. Most change is very quiet for a long time. You do the reps, you make the videos, you paint the painting, you go to the gym, you apply for jobs, you do the learning. You keep going when the numbers look ordinary, look low. And then slowly, life starts reflecting something different back to you. And not all at once, but enough to notice. And this is why I think you have to pay attention to the small, quiet signs, the quiet pieces of evidence. Because if you're only looking for a big breakthrough, if you're just hoping to go viral or you're hoping to win the lottery, you'll miss the early signs that you're becoming someone different. You'll miss the fact that you're more consistent now. You'll miss the fact that you feel calmer. You'll miss the fact that your space is better. You know, you'll miss the fact that you're actually doing things you used to only think about doing. And these things matter, you know. Confidence doesn't just come from achieving the final result. Confidence is built from the process of getting there, you know. Confidence comes from the evidence that you're no longer living the same way that you used to, you know. So maybe the question isn't, you know, has my life completely changed? Maybe the question is, am I moving differently? Am I making better, cleaner, more strategic decisions? Am I creating more often? Am I showing up consistently? Have I trained this week? Am I building an environment that supports the person who I want to become? You know, am I paying attention to what's starting to work? If the answer is yes, something is happening. If the answer is no, then maybe you need to take a look at things. You know, even if the results are small, even if nobody fully sees it yet, and even if the numbers don't prove it yet, sometimes the shift starts before proof arrives, you know. And I think this is like a feeling within rather than a number on a screen. Numbers on screen matter, numbers don't lie, as they say, but if you know you're moving differently, then you need to keep going, even if the numbers are low. Keep going, keep paying attention, keep showing up, keep sharpening the tool book, the tool belt, the tools. You know, keep improving your environment, stay focused, because all these are the small signs that things are actually moving. And small signs are not meaningless, they are evidence. And again, sometimes before your life changes dramatically, it starts to feel simply different. And that's that.